aka Young Cardamom. If you are not familiar, that is in fact the young alter ego of one Zohran Mamdani, who was just elected to mayor of New York City. So he is one of the reasons we're here tonight. And building democratic socialism across the country is what we're here to do. So welcome. Thank you so much for coming out. We're really excited to see so many people here. This is the biggest call we've had in a while. People are excited about Zohran, but there's other stuff to be excited about too. And we're going to tell you about some of it tonight. And I am going to start by handing it off to my co-chair, Ashik Sadiq.
All right, hello everybody. I am calling in live from Colorado Springs with a car full of socialists who drove down from Denver to join a Starbucks picket line, because today Starbucks workers all over the country are on strike. And this is amazing timing, coming after all these electoral wins. And for this call, we're going to be showcasing socialist electeds and organizers from all over the country, including labor organizers who are supporting Starbucks workers. And DSA is the organization that is building electoral power, labor power, movement power. We're standing up for people, for migrant communities against ICE raids. You're going to be hearing from a range of people on this call who are going to lay out why DSA is the organization to join right now. In this country, we have a rising fascism with the Trump administration, but we know it's not just about who's in office and president. At every level of government, we know it's stacked against us with corporate powers, and we're building the alternative while Democrats fail to be doing anything that's meaningful against the people dominating our whole society. So Starbucks workers today are demonstrating in over 40 cities. You'll hear from Shay, you'll hear from migrants' rights organizers, you'll hear from some of our other excellent socialist electeds who won. And our theory of change is intertwined. We're not just single issue people with different single issues. Everything that you're going to hear about on this call is intertwined. Zohran's election as mayor of New York City, the biggest win for socialists in the United States in over a century, is because of the movement power that DSA has helped build, and Zohran fully comes out of that. You might have seen videos of him joining a Starbucks picket line recently. He also has been standing up for Palestine. He's been he organized me into a hunger strike at the White House, and he just is an organizer. Fundamentally, his theory of change is about organizing power in government and outside of it. So DSA, we're not just trying to get people elected who are going to do nice things for us, who have good platforms. It's about building power at every level of our government. So we elect people who are going to stand up with workers everywhere. We're going to elect people who stand up with our immigrant communities, and we're not going to leave anybody behind. Somebody like Zohran and all the electeds you hear on this call, they're standing up for universal economic demands and policies. They're also not throwing people under the bus. They're going to keep standing up for Palestine. They're going to stand up for trans rights. Everything we're talking about is interconnected. We're building working class power in the heart of the empire, in the heart of the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And there's a reason that people are afraid of us. There's a reason that they spent tens of millions of dollars to try to defeat Zohran, and they couldn't do it. And everybody you're going to hear from on this call, has built working class power where they are. And it's not just in New York City, it's all over the country. So without further ado, I'm going to let you all hear from them. And if you're not a member of DSA right now, join DSA. That's what it's about. Where we have over 80,000 members now. I think 86,000. We might have passed 87,000 people. You might help us pass 87,000 people on this call. We have people in all 50 states. We have 200 plus chapters in every part of the country. So this is a time to keep organizing. It's not just about one election. It's not just about one strike. We're going to keep building for the long haul, and we're going to surprise the capitalists. So join DSA and help us keep doing it everywhere.
Amazing. And one of the things you're going to hear about a bunch tonight is how you can get involved with the Starbucks organizing. Before we do that, though, there is going to be a poll launched. We're going to ask you, are you a member of DSA? And if the answer is no, boy, have I got a simple solution for you. I pasted it in the chat already, but I'm going to do it again. There's a link. Please consider joining. We need you. This movement takes all of us, and we need your special skills. We need what you bring to the table. We need your history with capitalism, what you know, and what access you have to the means of production, and what history you have, and your skills, and all that stuff. We need all of us. So while we are answering this poll, I am going to introduce a very exciting special guest. So again, Zohran was not the only win last week. We also won elections across the country, including in Atlanta, Georgia, in the South, we have a new DSA City Council person elect, and their name is Kelsey Bond. And Kelsey is here to talk to you a little bit about what it means to win in the South.
Hey guys, this is Kelsey Bond and my cat Dodo Cameo. I use they them pronouns, and I was just elected to be Atlanta City Council District 2's council member to be sworn in January. And so excited about this. You know, this happened just a week ago, so we're all still processing. We're really tired. But this victory was 100% propelled by the Atlanta chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. I am going to be the first Democratic Socialist ever elected to this body. Just last year, we elected Gabriel Sanchez as the first Socialist member of the Georgia State House. So we are building on this momentum, using every opportunity we can to platform, you know, our agenda and get people involved in the movement. So we launched this campaign in January, shortly after Donald Trump's inauguration. We knew that, you know, thousands of people, if not millions, were going to be feeling some type of way about fascists taking over the White House once again. We wanted to make sure to use this energy and funnel it into something positive, get people involved in the movement that we're building. So we won this race last week in a landslide with 64% of the vote in a very crowded race with 4 other opponents. Corporate interests and developers poured tens of thousands of dollars into this race to try and stop us. And, you know, this happened, you know, the last few years, there's been a big fight to stop Cop City here in Atlanta. And we definitely tried to build on that momentum and use that energy to actually, you know, win some progressive positive change for once. And so, you know, we ran this race as proud, open Democratic Socialists in a nonpartisan race. So I was an independent candidate, and so many people, we live in a very dense walkable area, and I cannot go outside anymore without people recognizing me and knowing that they elected a Democratic Socialist to office. It's the coolest thing. So many people are joining our chapter right now, and so many strangers come up to me on the average day and tell me that they finally feel hopeful again about politics, you know, both on the local and national level. And you know, on this victory, after this victory, we are, you know, trying to take some downtime before we were sworn in January. But just earlier today, our chapter was out on the picket line with Starbucks workers, and we're trying to make sure that we're funneling this energy into the next thing. We're already planning some campaigns that we want to work on next year, and making sure that we're using this moment to recruit to DSA and get people involved in this movement, because it's going to take millions of us to actually stop fascism. And so proud to be a part of this organization. DSA was so critical to us winning this election, and this is just going to be the first of many, many more. So please join DSA. I was a, you know, regular rank and file member once, so hopefully we'll have thousands of Zorons across the country, and Kelsey Bonds in the next few years. So thank you guys, and join DSA.
Thank you so much, Kelsey. We are so excited for your win. I said it in the chat, but I'm going to say it out loud. People are saying stuff like, well, yeah, you can win in New York City, but what about the rest of the country? Well, Kelsey is Atlanta DSA's second elected official. They also elected Gabriel Sanchez last year to State House, to, I believe, Newt Gingrich's old seat. So we are actually winning this everywhere. Organized socialists can win from coast to coast, from the northern border to the southern one, and beyond. Okay, so let's talk about Starbucks. This is a big thing right now. It is Red Cup Day. We're going to go to Comrade Shay Singh, who is going to tell us a bit about what the Starbucks Workers United program is right now.
Hey, y'all. So glad to join you. My name is Shay. Use they, them pronouns. Proud member of DSA since 2014 and of Starbucks Workers United. I'm based out of Cleveland. We unionized our store in 2022, but I was feeling the FOMO, and Columbus was one of the many cities that went out on strike today. So I'm actually joining you from Columbus, Ohio, where we have 19 stores that are unionized, and we're out striking today. Just so proud that we are showing the world that workers, low-wage workers and fast food and service workers are not unorganizable, but in fact, we are 90% of the way to a contract, and we are striking right now to win the demands of our raises, of fair scheduling and benefits for trans workers. Trans rights are workers' rights, and we are a union that is going to stand and fight to win by those leaders in our union. And so I just want to say, I was so proud to have a fellow DSA member who came in, and we had a very close election back in 2022. And so when we talk about the DSA difference, our store election was actually 11-9. So that was the two of us who had come in to try and help organize the store. And now what has that meant? It's meant full participation in the strikes in our stores, and so many 600 stores across the country, 12,000 workers who have authorized this strike and are beginning going out. And DSA chapters across the country are stepping up to support them on the picket lines like we did for UAW in 2023. And we have over 118 strike captains right now across 70 chapters that have been standing up to say that they're going to mobilize their members to support workers both on the picket line as well as working and talking. This is a picket line that we're establishing company-wide and telling people do not buy Starbucks and skip Starbucks. We have 20 YDSA chapters that have signed up to shut down Starbucks and growing. And we have strike kitchens and folks feeding Starbucks workers from chapters like Philly, New York, LA, DC, Pittsburgh, Chicago, Buffalo, Silicon Valley, DSA. Shout out to all of y'all. We want y'all to be applying to the Labor Solidarity Fund to help make sure that we can. That's something that I'm just so proud and honored to be elected to your National Labor Commission. And that's something that we want to make sure we're supporting chapters that are supporting these workers out on the line. I think that's it. I just want to say thank you so much. It's been chapters like mine in Cleveland that have helped our workers stay whole through the worst union busting, on the record lately. And so we couldn't have been here without the support of DSA members and workers in our union itself, leading the workers out on strike. So thank you so much. Solidarity forever, y'all.
Thank you so much, Shay. It is so inspiring to hear what the Starbucks workers are doing. You out there in the audience can participate in this, and our Starbucks workers need you to. They need your support. They need you to sign the no contract, no coffee pledge. They need you to show up and talk to customers and have those customers explain to your neighbors and your friends why the most powerful thing they can do right now is to support the baristas. Every conversation is a chance to grow solidarity, a chance to have a little moment of real connection with somebody and to build the movement. So very, very exciting. It is very brave work. Please consider donating to the Solidarity Fund there. Also, obviously, Starbucks workers are not, are not necessarily in the, they're not in the 1%, let's say, right? Mostly folks who are in financial precarity already because it's not a super high paying job. So let's make sure that they have what they need to get through this strike. Okay, who do we have next? I think that possibly our next speaker is not here yet. So I am going to toss it over to a couple comrades from Portland DSA. So we have my comrade on DSA's National Political Committee, Comrade Luisa Martinez, who is helped found the Immigration Justice Working Group of both Portland DSA and nationally, and Comrade Eric G., who is in Portland. And I do want to flag Luisa. You were probably going to tell them this anyway, but Luisa was undocumented for many years, and that really contributes to her story and is the sort of thing that, this is why we need everybody. We need everybody's story to come together to build this movement. So it's really powerful to be able to organize with Luisa and Eric, and so take it away, y'all.
All right, thank you, Comrade. Yeah, I'm Eric, and I'm one of the co-chairs of Portland DSA's Immigrant Justice Working Group. So you might have heard that Portland is war-torn and also burned to the ground. I would like to tell you that that is false. Both are false. There was, it was mentioned by certain people that maybe the National Guard would be deployed here. There's no need for that. We want to send our full solidarity to the places where National Guard has been deployed, from Portland to you, or thinking about you. But the idea that needs to be deployed here is total misinformation by the corporate media or right-wing grifters. To some extent, it could be intentional conflation of the ICE protests that are going on here with larger protests in the past in 2018 or 2020 with Black Lives Matter. And I think, since this webinar is about wins, it's also a reaction to the electoral wins that we've had in Portland by electing 4 DSA members to our city council. By my calculation, that is a full third of the 12 city councilors. So for our DSA, including Mitch Green, who is a veteran, and he organized with an organization called About Face, an anti-war veterans group. He organized protests against the idea of deploying the National Guard. The National Guard is currently barred by a federal judge. We expect that to be appealed, but maybe even go to the Supreme Court. But for right now, it's barred. And our chapter had a large emergency meeting within a matter of days of that being mentioned, formed a vigilance coordinating committee to facilitate coordination within the chapter about that. So I'll just quickly mention some MigraWatch activities that we're doing, like I know a lot of chapters are, connecting to our members to local rapid response networks, and focusing really on Washington County, which is adjacent to Portland, a little bit more suburban to rural, and has more immigrant population and more ICE activity than Portland itself, where we've trained about 100 members of the Beaverton Education Association, the teachers union out there in MigraWatch, and also distributing whistle kits like I know a lot of chapters are doing. And the other thing I wanted to mention goes back to our city councilors in the public policy realm. Another DSA city councilor, Samir Kanal, who actually represents the district where I live, he introduced a ordinance to enshrine Portland's sanctuary city status in the city code. Previously, since 2017, it was just a non-binding resolution, but he introduced actual law. So it's in the city code, and that passed unanimously on the city council 12-0. So that was great to see, and a win. And now I'll pass it over to my co-chair, Louisa. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. So another thing that we've been focusing on is know your rights trainings, not just know your rights trainings, also train the trainer. And so sometimes it kind of gets missed that if you really want to stop deportations, it starts with empowering people with what their rights are when La Migre comes to their house or comes to their workplace. And so we've done these, we've had hundreds of attendees. We've done them at schools, churches, union halls. My homie Eric actually did one for an orchestra recently for band workers. And so another thing that we've done, also vulnerable youth. Another thing we've started doing that's been really popular is business and neighborhood outreach. So distributing Know Your Rights signs, and then those ICE not welcome here signs that I'm sure you've seen in lots of places. We've reached over 200 businesses in a matter of a couple of weeks. So that's really great. Another thing that we're doing, and this was, maybe one of the easier things that you can do as a chapter, is we are converting. So every year we have like a winter holiday party in December or January. And so we're just going to turn that, we're going to have our party, but we're also going to make it a fundraiser. And so the fundraiser is going to be for Emerge, which is a local NGO. It's the interfaith movement for immigrant justice. They give small grants to people who have been affected by ICE or deportations. And so we're going to have a samba band, which I'm really excited about. And so that was a relationship that we had beforehand. And so we actually met them during a protest against Juan Guaido, which is pretty cool. And so our tentative goal is to raise $10,000. We think it's possible, but we are still, of course, figuring out all the details. This is for December. And so in terms of like why organizing or how organizing in DSA is important for resisting fascism, I don't have any profound answers for you. Fascism has money and it has a lot of political power, and we're like a union. Like we have some money, but our strength comes from people, and it comes from a mass movement demanding change. And also as DSA, we're recognizing that U.S. foreign policy creates immigration. Sanctions against countries like Iran, like Cuba and Venezuela, drives so much immigration from the global south to the United States. And these are people who are doubly affected by capitalism. So they are, they're subject to imperialism in their home countries, and then they come to the United States and they're take advantage of a second time as a source of undocumented labor and low cost, cheap labor. And so our obligation is to stand up against this. It's inevitable that, foreign policy kind of used to be marginal, I think sometimes, and now we're being confronted with the political reality of political issues like Palestine and immigration. And so if this is something that is important to you and you want to push back against, now's the opportunity to join DSA. That's it for me.
Thank you, Comrade Luisa. And so for those of you who are on the call in Portland, it sounds like you have at least some of your holiday plans figured out. You're going to go samba dancing and raise a bunch of money. We love that. Okay, so our next speaker, we are going to talk to or hear from a comrade from DSA Los Angeles, DSA LA. We're going to go to Comrade Alex Q, who's going to talk to us a bit about the sort of extreme conditions that the Los Angeles chapter has found themselves in. Alex, take it away.
Thank you so much. And hi, comrades. It's good to be here. My name is Alex, she, her pronouns. And I just want to say just really quickly, the way that I got involved in DSA was back in 2021, when my coworkers and I were unionizing our second work site. And we were looking for support because we were dealing with a lot of retaliation, a lot of union bustings. Actually, the same year that the first Starbucks Buffalo had also organized. And we started joining the labor committees, the calls, and comrades that we have never met were like, what do you need? How can we support you? And this is why I'm still here. What is that, 5 years later? Because we were able to get that support and also pay it forward to new members that are coming in to the chapter. So I'm currently a Workers United member as well. So solidarity to my union siblings out there that are in the strike. And I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of the things that we're doing here in Los Angeles, kind of like what my comrades are saying in Portland. LA is not burnt to the ground either. And in fact, one of the things that I want to talk about is the amount of just empowerment that we see of community fighting back, because oftentimes, especially for like the immigrant community, the Latino communities that are being impacted and that are dealing with all these illegal kidnappings, there's this idea that we are all victims. But in actuality, there's so much love and so much power that is coming out of the city that I'm so proud that even when you're running on 4 hours of sleep, you're coming out to pull out your trumpet, to go to the ICE hotels and blast it. People are coming out. I don't know if I can cuss, but they start cussing out back at the paramilitary that is out here. There is so much empowerment that is coming out and solidarity. People every single day, like literally, like morrillos, little kids are coming out, not giving a fuck about these, like they're telling us that curfew, whatever. And what I'm really proud of is the work that we're doing specifically in Los Angeles that you can also get plugged into if you feel like you feel disempowered or you're not sure where to start. We are doing Home Depot patrols. A lot of our comrades are holding it down every single day for the past months, have been going to different Home Depots and ensuring that they're building the relationship with the jornaleros, the day workers, and being able to ensure that we are there to document, to also let them know their rights, but also just know our community has been incredibly beautiful. I went out one of those days too, kind of giving out some galletas, some cookies out to folks. And it's just really incredible to see how they also, by the way, are supporting and protecting one another. Another thing that we're doing is also the Walk the Blocks, which is a very easy lift if you've never canvassed before. Like, this is an incredible way to get to know your community because you're going down to little like the mom and pop shops and you're letting them know. You give them one of these signs that say actually, let me pull it out. We have one of these like employees only, and you basically just go out. You're like, hey, are you guys prepared in case of an ICE raid? And then literally what ends up happening, people are so interested in getting that information. More workers kind of get closer because they want to know. In fact, I've gotten free pan dulce. People are giving me coffee. They want to give you like money. I'm like, no. This is, we're all volunteers. But because they really want this information, and it's an incredible way to really just be in community with other folks. So if this is something that you're interested in, I highly recommend that you start doing this in your chapter. If you're not a DSA member, get involved because we're able to do this. And in fact, I've been on calls with folks in different chapters in Florida and Seattle being like, yo, we want to do this, and being able to kind of just share the information with one another. And in fact, we actually also hosted, DSA LA hosted like an immigration convening where we invited different chapters from like Long Beach to the Inland Empire to Orange County to San Diego, where we actually had like a day we were using one of the union halls, working with unions as well, to just figure out what is it that the other chapters are doing so we can really make sure that for the next year, knowing that ICE's budget is going to be tripling, what is that we can do as socialists and as DSA members to fight back? And the reality is there's a lot, but we just need more people. Like one of the comrades said, the fascists have money. Yeah, and we got people power. So we need all of us to do a little bit more. I found community in DSA and, just a lot of solidarity. Yes, we get into arguments, obviously, because we're going to have, our own perspectives. But at the end of the day, we know that the bosses and the billionaires are the ones, the capitalists, those are the actual enemy. So I really encourage you, if you're not sure where to start by getting involved, become a member and get plugged in, because we need you.
Thank you so much, Alex. It's so great to hear about the work LA is doing, and dsausa.org/join. And I've also posted the link in the chat a few times, and we'll post it more throughout the night. If you have not joined yet, please do. We need you. Like Alex said, it takes all of us. We're never going to beat the billionaires with money. We're going to beat them with our power as workers and as people who can join together in a mass movement. So, okay, who do we have next? Let me just double check that we have. All right, this is a really exciting special guest. We have United Auto Workers Region 9A Director, Comrade Brandon Mancia, who is on to talk about how UAW supported Zoran, and how we tie together labor work with all the other stuff we're trying to do, how it's all connected to the whole. Brandon, take it away.
Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for being here, and thank you for the invitation. My name is Brandon Mancia. I am the elected regional director of Region 9A of the UAW. That's 50,000 members in the northeastern United States and in Puerto Rico. I am a DSA member, a proud DSA member. Everyone should join DSA if they're on this call, and they're not a member already. But I also just want to make sure that folks understand that one of the biggest allies we've had on the picket lines over the last 3 years that I've been in office, since the stand-up strike of 2023 against the big three automakers, through all of the strikes that we've had in New York City and around the region, in my region, we've had DSA members come out proudly throughout those strikes and those struggles with food, with donuts, with water, with coffee, with supplies, with hand warmers when it's been cold. And I think it's that kind of solidarity shown by you all, many of you probably on this call, that has made the difference and allowed our members to keep fighting one day longer, one day stronger. And that solidarity is recognized by UAW members and appreciated greatly. I do want to say solidarity with Starbucks workers in Starbucks Workers United, who have gone out on strike starting earlier today. And speaking of strikes, in Region 9A, we have 2 strikes going on. Tech workers, IT workers at a nonprofit in Brooklyn called Canva have been on strike for a couple of weeks now. And also the resident assistants at Worcester Polytechnic Institute in Massachusetts have also been out on strike for a couple weeks now, and they deserve our solidarity as well. So if there's any Worcester DSA people, thank you for your support during those strikes as well. I'm part of the effort as an elected member of our leadership in the union within the UAW that has tried to reform the union over the last 3 years since Sean Fain got elected, to try to transform the union into a democratic and a fighting union. But it's bigger than that. We know that unions need to build a working class movement around a politics for economic and social justice if we're going to take power back from the wealthy and from the billionaire class. Labor is, but should be more on the front lines of the struggle to make our society affordable and address the cost of living crisis. We need to be on the forefront of the fight for universal health care. We need to be on the forefront of the fight for retirement security, and we need to be on the forefront of the fight for our time back. We live in the richest country in the history of the world, yet the working class has to work 2 or 3 jobs to survive, or work 7 days a week to barely survive. 94% of the profits we generate are going into the hands of the 1%, while working class communities in different cities and in different areas, rural and urban and suburban, are getting left behind. In the UAW, the top 26 companies that we represent have made over the last decade collectively $250 billion, $563 billion in profit. But those same companies that at the bargaining table deny us raises, cost of living allowances, and better health care have paid out to stockholders $530 billion in forms of buybacks and dividends. So again, just context, $563 billion in profits from those top 26 companies we represent members at, $530 billion back to shareholders. And yet they can meet all of our demands with just a tiny percentage of that. And yet they cry poor the minute we demand those at the table and pretend like the sky is falling. So how do we fight back against the situation, this concentration of power and wealth? Through our union, we know three ways. It's bargaining, it's organizing, it's political work. We need to bargain for precedent setting contracts. We need to organize to support workers who want to unionize. You all know the poll that's out there that says, the vast majority of workers in this country favor unions and would want to join a union if they knew how to join. We need to support efforts like EWOC, and all labor unions need to get serious about organizing because the appetite is there. In the UAW, we like to say that density is destiny, because the more power we have when we're organized in a given industry or in a workplace, the more concessions we're able to get from management, the more we're able to build up the labor movement to demand bigger and bolder things. But it's no surprise, right, that we need to build an independent working class politics in this country, and labor has to be at the core of it. And labor has a choice right now. It can continue to be part of the Democratic Party coalition, or it can finally face reality and change direction. Just today, as an example, Politico reported that the House has enough petition signers to force a vote on restoring collective bargaining rights for thousands of federal workers. But Hakeem Jeffries has stalled the effort because he doesn't want a Republican congressman to get the credit as a decisive signature. That's precisely the kind of politics that working class people in this country are tired of. And then they wonder why working class people have lost trust in the Democratic Party. It's for stuff like that. It was the need for a new kind of politics for us in the UAW that led us to endorse and be the first union to endorse Zoran Mamdani in New York. We were proud to be out there in the canvassing and the phone banking and the text banking, talking to our neighbors, talking to strangers about why we needed to elect a new mayor. And now that he is in office and we've been successful in our effort, alongside so many of you who were out there trying to get Zoran elected, we're going to fight for his agenda and make sure that we win everything that Zoran has campaigned for and make that a reality. But and I'll conclude with this. It's also time with folks like Zoran in office, true working class champions and fighters, for us to think creatively, beyond his agenda. Now is the time to think about what it is, what kinds of demands would truly change our society, that would really empower labor unions and working class people to take back that control and power from their bosses, from the billionaire class. And it's time to put the pressure on our electeds to get behind that program. And for us, this is all culminating in a big project, which is May Day 2028. We have made a call out to the labor movement to align your contracts for May Day of 2028. And for folks who are not currently in the union, May Day 2028 is also a horizon for you to organize towards. This is the time to get serious. Unfortunately, labor law in this country is broken. It's antiquated. It hasn't been reformed in decades. So chances are, if you start organizing right now, you will probably still be fighting for, your union or to win a first contract by 2028. That's unfortunate, but that's the reality, and it's time to get ready, and it's time to start fighting now. So I thank you all for the time tonight, and I'm looking forward to hearing from more people.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brandon. And as Brandon is saying, if you want to get organized, well, have I got a speaker for you? Up next, we have Comrade AK Alalanu, who is coming to us from EWOC, which is a very fun name. EWOC is a joint project of DSA and the United Electrical Union, and AK is going to tell you about it and how you can get organized.
Hey there, folks, and thank you for that, Megan. My name is AK. I'm calling in from Chicago, and I am a volunteer organizer with the Emergency Workplace Organizing Committee, or EWOC. And when yesterday, when Michael, one of the other organizers with EWOC, kind of called me and asked me to come onto this call and give some remarks to you guys, he said two things. One, you have to tell everyone, what EWOC's about, what the whole deal is. And I said, sure, that's fine, that's easy. And he also said that I have to talk about one of my past campaigns. And I said, sure, I can do that. But in my head, I was like, I'm not sure how that's going to go. And I'll tell you guys why in a second. But with EWOC, I knew the campaign that I was going to talk about, and that was one that I had earlier this year with some folks at a local animal shelter, and I met with the lead and one of her coworkers. We'll say the lead's name was Stacy. And we were talking about, how to build an organizing committee at your workplace. And I said, are there a couple of folks that we can bring to our next meeting so we can start to have this conversation about how to organize the people at your work? And they said, we can try our best, but people are really afraid of, getting fired for this kind of stuff. And so we talked about how to deal with that sort of situation. And they said, okay, we'll try to build this committee. And so over the next few weeks, I saw this organizing committee grow from 2 people to 5 people. And then we had about a dozen people. They're starting a group chat. We have almost every department at this workplace represented. And, eventually, we're talking about what we need to do in order to build power at the workplace. And this campaign, I handed it off to a union a little bit after that. And that was all I had heard about it until yesterday when I called so I can get an update about what's going on with this campaign so I could share it on this call. And that's always a little tricky because with these campaigns, sometimes they flame out, people lose interest. It doesn't go the way that we would like. And so we have to navigate that. And that's why I don't always talk to people from old campaigns. So I text her and I say, hey, how is it going? And she says, well, I got fired from my job. And that really sucked to hear. And I said, are you good? Like, what's up? I'm sorry this happened to you. It's awful. And she said, I'm going to be okay because I don't regret a single thing that I did. The union campaign is still going and they are fighting for me to get my job back. And I know the workers at this shelter, each one of them is going to continue fighting until they get exactly what they deserve on the job. And that sort of leads me into what is this EWOC stuff all about? How does it work? And EWOC is a joint project of DSA and the United Electrical Workers, the union. And for the past 5 years, it's been teaching workers how to talk to their coworkers, how to build organizing committees, and how to win demands on the job. And we have people fill out a form online. They get connected with an intake person and they connect them to a volunteer organizer like me who helps them, walk through those steps. It also trains people on how to talk to their coworkers. And so there is a 4-part series that EWOC runs multiple times a year. And there's also a cohort program for folks who are actively organizing their workplaces. So you want to get involved with EWOC, it's easy. You go to the website, it's organizeworkers.org. You can register for training on that website. If you are interested in organizing your workplace, you can get support on that website. And if you want to help support the work that me and hundreds of volunteers across the country do, you can also donate at that website. Doing this kind of work, I have talked to exterminators in Iowa. I've talked to paralegals in California. I've talked to tech consultants in Indiana. And, these are regular folks. They're not going to protest. They're not showing up at DSA meetings. But, what they do have is that they have problems. They know that they're the one who can fix those problems. And they know that there will be someone to support them every step of the way. And if we have more people like that in this country, that is how we win. And that is the work that we're trying to do.
Hear, hear. So if that is you, if you are struggling with your workplace, need some help, either whether it's organizing a union or just getting some advice about sort of legal next steps you can take to organize your coworkers against a bad boss, and win some demands, reach out to EWOC. It's what they're there for. They are there to help you understand and organize your power as a worker. And that is so important, and it is such a fundamental piece of socialist thought, right? Our power comes from our position in the working class. Okay, so we have another guest now, who is one who's coming to us from another one of these places, right? So, oh, well, Zoran won in New York, but what about the rest of the country? What about Florida? So we have a guest tonight, a Democratic Socialist city council member from St. Petersburg, Florida, Comrade Richie Floyd. Take it away, Richie. You are muted, comrade.
My bad. Can you hear me now? All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I can't honestly believe that I get to be a part of this conversation when there's so many incredible speakers here tonight. But you know, I think I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about what people online call the DSA difference. Thing about DSA is that you can be a normal person, not involved in the political process, and suddenly find yourself thrust into the spotlight and becoming the first socialist elected official in Florida in 100 years. And that's what happened to me. I was just a teacher. I was involved in my union, and I organized with my local DSA chapter, which when I started was a handful of people meeting at a local community church that gave us space for free. And we just were trying to see how we can make an impact in the world. And it's just grew and grew until I got elected as member of the St. Petersburg City Council in 2021. And so, you know, my only political experience was working with DSA and checking out other local progressive groups. And I really enjoyed DSA the most. And after a brief amount of time, we decided, like, hey, you know, we should try to run someone for office. I ended up being the person that was running, and we ran a campaign the only way that DSA knows how. We recruited a ton of volunteers, knocked on a ton of doors, raised money from small dollar donations, and told people face to face, like, what Democratic Socialist platform could do for them, what a Democratic Socialist in City Hall could do for them. And we were successful in not just winning, but we won our primary by 27 percentage points. And then in the general election, it was competitive, and we beat a moderate former elected official in a citywide race in 2021, when it was a difficult year for socialists. And so, you know, we were able to come up. We were able to come up big, and it went really well. I'm sorry, I just got distracted because my mom just texted me and said, "Are you on this DSA call?" So it's nice to know my mom's a DSA member as well, so she's paying attention. But anyway, back to what I was getting at. Because I was elected on a Democratic Socialist platform, having DSA help me get across the finish line, we've been able to bring up priorities that never would have been discussed in a city hall in Florida. And we've been able to get things accomplished that would never have been accomplished for working people. And so I've got just a few things. Like, one of my proudest accomplishments is we brought forward a proposal for right to counsel for every tenant facing eviction in our city. We're able to get a pilot passed, and we've got the full program coming soon. And because of this, there have been many people who have not lost their housing in our city and not faced discrimination and illegal action by landlords because of the work that our DSA chapter did. We made a tangible difference in people's lives. We passed resolutions decriminalizing abortion in the city. We brought forward a resolution calling for a ceasefire in Palestine, and voted down a resolution calling for us to stand with Israel. And it was the only place in Florida that these things even got discussed in a city hall. We were able to not just get things done through our electoral initiatives, but we were able to bring together broad priorities of the chapter, like housing and tenant advocacy work, and international issues, because we participated in the electoral process. And so DSA made all of this possible. And I kind of want to end on this, something that I found. throughout my time as an elected official. The capitalist class exerts an immense amount of pressure on me every single day. I have lobbyists calling me, I have developers calling me and trying to talk to me all the time and trying to schedule meetings with me all the time. And the things that they say on their face make sense. And they're like constantly whispering in your ear. And yes, I have a personal commitment to democratic socialism, but the thing that makes it so easy to stand on business is that I know that I have a massive organization of people who think like me and are working to create the same world that I am, that back me and will be out at City Hall in the streets fighting to make sure that we get the things that we want and that I have support when I do things. Just today, I struggled through, having proposals get voted down. I think Bernie said it when he was running in 2020. He said, I feel lonely a lot of times in the halls of power. And today was one of those days, but I was able to get home, get on this call, listen to all these wonderful speakers, and know that the movement that we're building is marching in the correct direction, and that there's a lot of people who support the work that I do. And we're going to be able to make a lot more headway and ultimately, I think, win a lot of good things for working class people in this country. And so I would just definitely encourage you all to join DSA. It's been life-changing for me, and I guarantee would be life-changing for you in a number of different ways. So thanks.
Thanks so much, Richie. Richie is, in fact, the king of Recruit Your Family. Richie's wife, I believe, is the co-chair of his chapter. His mom is an active in leadership of a different chapter. So be like Richie, recruit your mom. Come on, we all need to do it. I need to recruit my mom. She is donated, but she is not joined. So maybe now's the time. Get myself on that fall drive leaderboard. Okay. Thank you so much, Richie. And we have just one more guest speaker tonight, and then we'll hear a bit more from some of our comrades who put on this call. Our last guest tonight is a really special person coming to us from New York City, Comrade Sumaya Awad, who is an organizer for Palestinian liberation and lots of other stuff as part of New York City DSA. So Sumaya, take it away.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here and hear all these brilliant speakers. I kind of want to meet all of Richie's family now. So I know that people have already talked a bit about Zohran in New York City, but I want to emphasize something that I believe Brandon said, and perhaps everybody has said in different ways, which is that what got us this victory was movement power, and was having a broad coalition at the center of which was New York City DSA that was just out, every single week for months. And the opposition spent tens of millions of dollars trying to ensure Zohran would not be elected. And they failed. And they failed because we had 104,000 volunteers. We knocked on 3 million doors. I think the number of phone calls made was like 4 or 5 million. So we're talking about like really reaching, a big portion, like almost half of New York City's population. And about a year ago, I interviewed Zohran about the election, and I said, why wouldn't people be excited about these politics, a platform that is supporting working people? And he said one of two reasons. And for time, I won't mention the first, but the second reason was that they just haven't heard about it, that they haven't heard about our politics. And we fixed that with the phone calls and the door knocking, et cetera. And I say this because I think one of the main takeaways from the campaign is that our audience is so much bigger than we think it is. And that we're in a very particular opportunity in time right now that we need to reach them. And we need to be creative about what that means, as Brandon was saying. And that we have challenges ahead. Co-governance is not an easy thing, and we're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. But that's all to build our movement, to build our ranks, and to fortify what we're trying to build for working class people in New York and around the country. The second thing I wanted to say that I think is really important not just with the victory in New York, but around the country, as others have mentioned, is that we also have to be thinking about how do we make what we're fighting for accessible to most people? How do we come to them where they're at and make our language and our campaigns and everything we're fighting for easy to understand and easy to plug into, so that the person that's working an 8-hour, multiple jobs or one 8-hour shift, etc., knows exactly what to do to get involved in what we're fighting for. And I think that's tricky and we don't always get it right, but it's really, really important, especially now with this growing audience we have and with the current state of our government. The other thing I want to say is that I think from this victory, I mean, New York City is, let's just say that no one thought it was possible to elect someone that was openly critical of Israel. That's an understatement. And I think what we're learning increasingly, and frankly, what Israel has sort of made easier for us because it's committing a genocide live for all of us to see on our screens, is that Palestine and being in support of Palestinians and against the genocide and against occupation is no longer a liability in ways that it was years ago, right? Even in the electoral sphere, where we always thought there's no way electoral politics can be done while someone stands firmly with Palestine. And I think we're learning that that's not the case. And it's not because things have changed overnight. It's because of what our movements have been able to build. It's because of our steadfast commitment to Palestinians. And more importantly, not more importantly, equally importantly, it's because we've been able to build campaigns that are able to connect foreign policy to domestic policy. So that when people say they support Palestine, it's not just because they stand with it from like a moral, ethical stance, but because they understand that what is happening in Palestine, that the tax money, our taxes going to pay for a genocide, could be used differently here in the US, where people don't have health care, where people are struggling to make ends meet, housing costs are up, etc. And I think that's really, really important. It goes back to that question of like, how do we make our campaigns accessible? How do we make it all make sense to people? And Palestine is a clear way to do that. And I'll end with two things. The first is that I think the arms embargo campaign is so important because it's a way to show that we need to divest our tax dollars from genocide and invest them here. And because we now have both a growing and expanding movement on the ground for arms embargo, and simultaneously, we actually have a bill in Congress that is pushing for an arms embargo and that has over 55 signatories, which has never happened before. And so I think pushing arms embargo and remembering that no matter what iteration of a ceasefire is presented, that actually our work is not done, even if there is a ceasefire, even although I'm sure we all know that we should be very suspicious of this so-called ceasefire right now. But no matter what, as long as the US continues to fund Israel's genocide in Palestine, our work is not done because our goal here in the US is simple and straightforward, and it's to end US complicity in Israeli occupation and apartheid and genocide. And that work must continue. And I'll end by saying there are many people that I think share our politics. But it's one thing to have to say like, I'm for working class people and I support this and that's great and amazing and they can be organized. But what really matters is to be part of an organization because our strength comes from being organized, from mobilizing as one, from being united as one. And it doesn't mean we have to agree about everything. Not at all. But I think being organized, being in an organization is crucial for expanding our project and for building real working class power in the halls of power, in places where we can actually have an influence. And so if you aren't a member, I really urge you to join. No matter how small the chapter is where you are, it doesn't matter because it will grow. So I urge you to join. If you've recently joined or if you've been a member for years but haven't been active and involved, now is the time to do so. You don't want years from now to be like, man, I should have just been active earlier. Do it now. You have nothing to lose and you have so much to gain. So I really urge you to join DSA if you haven't. And if you are, to get plugged into whatever campaign excites you and speaks to you, because now is the time for all of us to organize together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samaya. And yeah, I mean, again, like the theme of the night is there is no one issue, right? All of these things are connected. We're fighting against the billionaire class as they consolidate power in our workplaces and in our homes and in elected offices and in every corporate space we're in. And so we have to fight everywhere, and all of those fights are connected because it's the same enemy. So please join DSA. We need you. We want you. You can and will make a difference. You can and will like hit the ground running and become a socialist organizer. There is work for you to do. There is so much for you to contribute to. So as we draw to a close, I'm going to pass it off to one of the coordinators of this call, Comrade Abdullah, who is one of my fellow members of DSA's National Political Committee. Bring us home, Comrade.
Thank you so much, Megan. And I'm so grateful for all of you for being here today on this Thursday evening to really celebrate this moment that we're in, celebrate the fact that we as a socialist organization in the United States are capable of winning. We can put forward our politics. We can put forward DSA members like Zoran. We can put forward demands like an arms embargo. And if we organize across the country, if we organize a movement of millions of people, we can win. You know, I'm always reminded, and really on the night that Zoran won, I was reminded of a quote from Martin Luther King, that the moral arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. And I think that the reality is that the moral arc of history has to be bent towards justice. It has to be bent towards justice by a mass movement of DSA members like all of you that are here today. And we've had over 3,000 people RSVP to this call. We've had close to 1,000 of you joining us here today. And all of you here should see yourselves as organizers. The goal of our call today is to recruit each and every one of you to become organizers. And so the first step to doing that is joining DSA. And there's going to be a link in the chat for you to do that. And once you've joined DSA, your next step is to recruit people to DSA. You don't have to be an expert to do that. All you have to be able to do is talk to your coworkers, talk to your family members, talk to your parents about the Zoran election, about the necessity of winning an arms embargo, about the fact that billions of our tax dollars are going to fund a genocide while you don't have healthcare at home. And if you can have that conversation, then you can recruit people to DSA. And so there's also going to be a link that's going to be dropped in the chat. And using that link, you can generate a unique Join DSA link for yourself. So all you have to do is enter your email address into that link, and that'll make a unique join link. And what that'll do is that every time you recruit someone to DSA, you get to be added to a leaderboard. And we all, engage in competition with each other to see who can recruit the most members to DSA to build our movement into a movement of millions of people. And so please do that after you've joined DSA. We also have regular phone banks where we call people and talk to them about joining DSA. And we're actually going to be having one of those phone banks this Saturday. And so please join that phone bank. It's going to be dropped in the chat. And as you're generating those unique join links, I would love for you to give me a thumbs up react. If you use the react function on Zoom, give me a thumbs up react after you've generated your unique join link. And I'm so happy to see so many of those reactions coming through because we know that every single person here can become an organizer for DSA. So thank you all for coming. And I'm going to ask Griffin to hit the music. Thanks all.